Hello everyone, welcome and welcome back to my channel. My name is Amoafua. It's the first time here. If it's not, thank you so much for returning. So the last time I did a Q&A on this channel was in 2018. I figured it was time for a refresh. And so I asked for questions on Instagram and Twitter, and you guys sent some cool ones in. So over on Instagram, I got a lot of questions about blogging and like how I got into it and all of that kind of thing. So I figured I would just do like a quick little, this is a story all about how, and explain how I got into it, why I do it, how I get paid to do it, and so on. Someone asked a question, why do you do what you do, that I think is a really good one to sort of encompass the entire story. So yeah, overarching story. So I got on the internet, on the social medias in like 2011, 2012 with Facebook, which I think is true for most people. Facebook is where you start out. I made my way on over to Tumblr somehow, and I just became a bit of a Tumblr girl. And just to give you like a backstory of who I was, what sort of mental space I was in around this time. Clearly I'm a dark-skinned woman, and so I was coming on the internet in 2010, 2013. If you were a dark-skinned woman on the internet in 2010 to 2013, you had two options. There was dark-skinned woman in a bikini on all fours, slathered in baby oil, and then there was forums of people on the internet discussing how dark-skinned women look like monkeys, and there was no in between. And so I was coming in onto the internet as like a 13, 14-year-old, and I already had a lot of insecurities about being dark. And this is just to give you background for why being on Tumblr was important for me and kind of like how it led me down this path. That's one thing, is I had a lot of insecurities about being dark. The other thing was I was a person growing up who really enjoyed fashion, and like I would actually watch fashion TV or like go on Vogue.com and look at the runways and that kind of thing. But I grew up around men. Like my mother and I were the only family members who were women in the household, and my mom isn't very big on clothes and that kind of thing, and so most of my clothing was either like material that we'd sewn for church clothes or my brother's hand-me-downs. So like growing up, I loved fashion and I cared about it and I wanted to be able to explore it, but it wasn't really something that was open to me. Also because we didn't like have the funds to be out here exploring style. So I had a love for fashion, and then I had all of these insecurities about being a dark-skinned woman that were amplified by being on the internet and seeing all of the hate that dark skin would get on the internet. And also in real life, because people love to call you names and that kind of thing and act like it doesn't matter, but that's besides the point. So I got on Tumblr and I found sort of like an online community of people who shared my love for images and aesthetics, and eventually I stumbled on Asiami Gold, and that's why I like talk about her so much. I like really appreciate who she is and like the work that she's done and all the people that she's influenced, maybe not even knowing. But then I saw a dark-skinned woman who I thought was gorgeous, who other people thought was gorgeous, who was doing such like beautiful stuff. Like she would be the creative director for all of these shoots and that kind of thing, and they were all so beautiful. And so I found her, and then Afrochild, who I actually went to the same high school as, but I didn't know her then. I just found her on Tumblr like a few years later. So I followed Asiami, Afrochild, Giselle Renee, and I found this world of dark-skinned women who were like just gorgeous and creating such beautiful images, wearing beautiful clothes, just being like fantastic as hell. And I was like, oh my god, like I can actually like celebrate myself, and I can explore this like love for fashion and aesthetics that I have. Like all of these women who look like me are doing it. So that's kind of how I got into it. And so I started taking pictures of my outfits like on the lowest of keys with my webcam when I was in law school. And I was always talking about starting a fashion blog and trying to get everybody to start a fashion blog instead of just starting on myself, because I was like embarrassed about it at the time. And then I started my blog on Tumblr. I was just reblogging stuff. I created a WordPress account and I sort of like formalized it more as a fashion blog account. Then when I got to uni, I would take pictures of my outfits. I studied abroad in Milan and I got a lot of great travel photos when I was in Milan. And I was like, oh my god, I want to do this. I want to be able to marry my love for aesthetics and my love for fashion, and now what I'm realizing is a love for travel imagery. So the blog that you now see as amoafua.com is sort of like a compilation of all of those things, of me like learning to embrace being a dark-skinned woman, me learning how to channel my love for fashion, and sort of like understanding that I did love imagery and I wanted to be able to create travel images. That's how I got started, and because I found all of these women who did that for me, right? So if Asiami didn't have a blog, if Giselle didn't have a blog, if Afrochild didn't have a blog, then who knows if I would have found other people to sort of like inspire me down the same path. So I do it because I love it, and I do it also because I know that creating positive images of dark-skinned women just living their best lives is necessary still. I still get messages from people who are like, I'm dark and this, and I'm dark-skinned and this, that. And yeah, so that's why I got into it. That's how I got into it. That's why I do it. Yeah. Now, the other question I get is, how long have I been doing it for? So I've had my own site. So as it was theexpatmannequin.wordpress.com when I started, and last year I made it amoafua.com. But I've had that blog for 6 years, I think. So it's been a while. It's been like a slow, steady growth for me on the internet. Also because I wasn't very consistent with it and I wasn't taking it too seriously. I was just kind of doing it because I wanted to. How do I get paid to blog? If you're trying to make an income from social media, then you probably know that your numbers matter and the quality of your content also matters. Quality plus consistency will usually bring in the numbers. So I got my first paid job for Instagram last year and I was around 9,800 followers. It was for Shea Moisture. And if you're on the following range of 10 to 15k, you can typically get paid anywhere from $100 to $1,000 a campaign. So a campaign is the Instagram feed post, the story post, the video, how many pictures you're expected to post, and so on. So depending on the terms of your contract, you can get paid anywhere between $100 and $1,000. Since I got my first paid job in May, or like April of last year, and it's been fun. How do I get paid jobs? So something that people don't focus on as much now is hashtags. So if whatever niche you're in, be that fashion, beauty, lifestyle, use the hashtags that are relevant to your niche, because a lot of brands actually find new bloggers to work with through those hashtags. Like I've worked with Majuri, the jewelry company. I love them. And I think they reached out to me, and I think they found me through hashtags. Repost pages, like I followed College Fashionista and I was reposted on there a few times, so I think a couple brands also found me through College Fashionista. I've reached out to companies to work with them. So like I worked with a brand called En Route Jewelry, and I had a discount code for them for about 2 years or so. I emailed them. Revolve, that I am an ambassador for, I emailed them. The trip I did with Zaina, I emailed them. So reach out to brands, use hashtags, sometimes the brands will come to you. And you can also sign on to blogger platforms. The ones I recommend are Octoly, because you get PR, which makes creating content easier. So Octoly, Aspire IQ, I've got a lot of jobs through there, and for.com. I'll leave them all in the description box. I think that's everything on blogging. If you have more questions, I can answer. Like I can do like a full blogging Q&A, but I think that covers most of the questions on blogging. One question I get all the time is, how old am I? I have been 16 since I was 16, and I will remain 16 until I decide otherwise. Someone asked, do you like African fashion? So the answer to this question is, it depends on what you're talking about. Do I like wax print? Not really. I'm not big on it. Like the wax print blazers, the wax print pants, the wax print dresses. I feel like it's enough, you know, like I personally am good on that front. I really like Houdin prints because they're a little bit more like abstract and that kind of thing. But in terms of wax print, I'm not pressed about it. In terms of African fashion designers, absolutely. Like Andrea Iyama is... I don't know how to say the name, but it's Andrea Iyama or Andrea Iyama. But fantastic designer. She does swimwear. Everything she makes is beautiful. She also does like bridal pieces. everything she makes is beautiful. Hanifa, everything she makes is beautiful. I love orange culture. There's a bunch of like Nigerian contemporary designers that I think are really great. There's this one Ghanaian designer that I love. It's Larry something. I always forget the name, but I'll put it in the description bar. Ngoro Studio is really cool. Lisa Folayiwo, if I'm remembering her last name correctly. There's so many African fashion designers that I think are doing really amazing work. But if you're talking about wax print, then I'm not big on wax print. What do you think will absolutely change about your work in fashion over the next year? I definitely wanted to feel more intentional. I think when I first started my blog and my Instagram, I focused more specifically on fashion, and over time, because I've got into doing more travel and lifestyle stuff, my like fashion interest doesn't show as much. Like you can tell in the choice of clothing and that kind of thing, but there's not as much of a focus on it. I would love to be able to sort of like get back to talking about clothes in the way that I want to, and like talking about them in depth in the way that I really want to. How do you look so good? The color grading in your videos, amazing. Thank you. I work really hard on it. One thing that I try to keep consistent across all of my platforms is just the aesthetic quality. And there's like a blue tinge on most of my Instagram photos that I wanted to carry through in my YouTube videos. And so I kind of just like played around a little bit with the color grading in Final Cut to get this filter, and then I put this filter on all my videos. So I hope that answers your question. It's just playing around with the knobs in Final Cut. For beginners, I have a blog post on all of the cameras that I recommend, and I'll leave that link to the description bar down below and up here in the cards if I can do that. So just click to go read and there'll be links to buy everything. Also always leave my own equipment linked in the description bar down below, so you can check that out if you want to see what I use. What high school did you go to? I went to Wesley Girls High School, and that's all I'm going to say on that. I do not need to go back there mentally, physically, ever again. Do you take any skincare supplements? Have they worked for you? I've never taken a skincare supplement, so no, I don't take any skincare supplement. Would you go on a date with me if I sent you cash? Just one date, no strings attached. Moving on. This is quite a long question, so let me just go. This curious cat wants to know, how do you deal with attention? Multiple men coming up to you, many of them probably fitting your ideals. This is assuming you have a lot of great men moving to you. How do you sift through it all to find a one? I feel like this question is packed in so many ways, and I just kind of like want to peel it apart a little bit. I think, okay, so to kind of give you framing for my response to this question and why it's going to be so long, I can feel it already. I'm a feminist. I identify as a radical feminist. What that means, as I learned recently from a really good conversation, is that in sort of the roots of feminism. And the root of feminism is undoing patriarchy. So all types of patriarchal structures, and undoing how they like trickle down into different aspects of our lives. I get questions like this a lot about like, what do you do about men? And like men this and men that. And there's a few things there that I want to pick apart. One, the compulsory heterosexuality of it all. Like, I think it would be good for all of us to get into a mind frame where we don't assume that because someone presents femme, that they are attracted to men, or want relationships with men, and so on and so forth. The other part is, a big part of my feminist praxis is decentering romantic love, particularly romantic love with men. Because I think a lot of women who look to partner with men sometimes place romantic love above every other kind of love in their life and treat it as something to aspire to in a way that can be very harmful. And so I like to look at love all the same. So the love that my mother has for me, the love that my friends have for me, and the love that a partner would have for me are all on the same level. Neither one is worth more or adds to my value more than any of the others. So the next thing is, how do I deal with men who are like amazing? Propositioning me, I guess? Is that something that people say? I don't. A very long answer to your question of how do I deal with men coming up to me. The very short answer is I don't. What other influencers do you look at for inspiration? I am always leaving lists on my Instagram stories of people that I'm loving. I love Chinky. If you don't follow her, please follow her. Please let's get Chinky to 10k because I need to be making bank off of her fantastic aesthetic and eye and Instagram account. Chinky is magical. I love everything she does. Like, she does it so well. Oh my god. Like, if you're like hashtag aesthetics, hashtag minimalist aesthetics, hashtag who what wearing, follow Chinky. Love her. The other person I really like is Orion Carlotto. She's kind of Marmite. Like, people either really love her or really hate her. But I like her aesthetic. So I'll say Orion as well. I really love Asiami, as I've mentioned before. Giselle Renee, but I think she deleted her Instagram. Very unfortunate for the rest of us, but I hope the people who encounter her in real life are appreciating her gorgeousness as much as we did. Child, Chelsea. Spirited Pursuits, I really like her travel imagery. Chloe Plumstead, I love her blog so much. It's thelittleplum.co.uk. It's such a good read because she's one of the few bloggers left who actually write. Because I loved reading blogs back in the day, but everybody has transitioned to the short form content on Insta. So not that many people actually write full-length blog posts anymore, but Chloe does, and she writes the best blog posts. So I will leave her link. I will leave all of these people I'm mentioning in the description bar. How are you able to stay confident? Okay, so I'm sure there are people out there in the world who are like confident 24/7 and like are forever like, yes, I am a boss bee. You know, nobody can talk to me, nobody can chat to me. And I'm like, yeah, that's great. I personally am not one of them, unfortunately. Like, I have my moments where I'm lower and moments where I feel really confident. The thing that I try to remind myself though is that how I feel will pass, but the facts will stay the same. So let's say what I'm feeling bleh about is I have a campaign to shoot and I woke up feeling like tea bread, like 3-day-old tea bread. I remind myself that even though I feel really gross, I try to remind myself of the facts, being that I do find myself quite aesthetically pleasing, that I know how to set up and take a scroll stopping image, and that I am really good at my job. And regardless of how I'm feeling that day, these facts remain true. So even if I'm feeling lower on myself or that kind of thing, I just remind myself that these are the facts. The fact is that I am good at my job. The fact is that I like the way I look. The fact is that I know how to make an image, a campaign-worthy image happen. And so even if I don't feel like I know how to do all those things, even if I don't feel that way about myself that day, that's still true. Do you ever second guess yourself? I do. But similarly to my answer to the last question, I remind myself that I don't get anything done, that I don't have anything to improve on, I don't have anything to grow from, I don't have anything to learn from. So even if I'm doing something and I'm not doing it well, at least I'm doing it and then I can look back and learn from it. Versus if I don't do anything at all, then I have like, I'm always going to be at point zero. So if I'm making a decision and I'm second guessing it, I'm just like, make the decision, follow through with it, see it to the end, see what happens. If it's a bust, it's a bust, you learn from it, you make better decisions moving forward. If you could live anywhere in the world, which country would you choose? OG subscribers and Instagram followers know Italy. I am absolutely in love with Italian culture. I think Italy is just the most beautiful place in the world.